I like to use a traditional 3-needle bind off to do seams on the inside of my work. So here are 2 pieces I'm going to seam together with a 3-needle bind off, and I'm holding the right sides together and the needles side by side. So I'm just going to use this one yarn that was attached to one of these swatches that I was knitting with. I'm using a double-pointed needle, and I just find that that's easier. So I'm going to knit through both of these first 2 stitches on the 2 needles that are held together. That's 1 stitch. Now I'm going to knit through the next 2 stitches. So I'm knitting those 2 stitches together, and then I'm going to bind off a stitch. So now I have 1 stitch bound off from each needle, and I'm going to continue down this whole needle for both of these. So my needle is going to go into both of these knitwise, and they're knit together. And this makes a great seam. This is what the 3-needle bind off looks like on the inside of your work when you use it to seam. And this is what it looks like on the outside. This is a really good way to match patterns at the shoulder. This second 3-needle bind off method is modified slightly to produce a flatter seam, and I use it when I want to have a nice decorative seam on the right side of my piece. So I'm holding these 2 swatches with the wrong sides together because I want my seam to look nice on my outside here, so my right sides are facing. I'm going to be using the yarn from this front swatch, but you could use either yarn, it doesn't matter. So the first thing I'm going to do is with my 3rd needle here that I'm using to bind off, I'm going to slip this first stitch on the first needle purlwise. And I like to move that needle out a little bit further so that nothing falls off. Now I'm going to go to the back here and purl a stitch from the back needle. And I'm going to pass the 2nd stitch over the first stitch. Okay. The first one is always the most difficult. So now I'm going to again slip that first stitch off of my front needle and then purl the first stitch off of the back needle. Then I'm going to pass the 2nd stitch over the first stitch and then pass the 2nd stitch over the first stitch again. And the second time I do that, that is the stitch actually being bound off. So again, I'm going to slip that first stitch purlwise from my front needle and then purl the first stitch from the back needle, pass the 2nd stitch over, pass the 2nd stitch over, and continue that all the way across. This creates a really nice looking chain along the right side of your work, and it lays nice and flat when you steam it out or block it. And this is what it looks like on the wrong side.